Welcome back, everybody, to episode 7 of the D-League Fantasy Football Podcast. I come to you this week with some great news, and I come to you this week with some bad news. The great news, we have 2 new co-hosts with us this week, which also leads me into the bad news. Unfortunately, the network made us fire our previous host, Mr. Hunter Clark. Apparently, the viewers were not happy. The content was not up to par. And so we made the tough decision to cut him. He just wasn't getting the job done. So welcome, Chuck. Welcome, Mudge, or should I say Denver Dust Balls and Chuck's Crumb Bums, newly found Crumb Bums. Welcome to the podcast, boys.
Yep. Hey, thank you. Glad to be back.
Happy to be here. RIP Hunter, we're going to miss him dearly. I know as a viewer, I had a favorable opinion of him, but I can see that others didn't. So, when one man has to step down, Chuck and I are here to carry the burden. So we're happy to be here.
Yep.
With that said, quick disclaimer, Hunter's enjoying himself in Hawaii, couldn't make the show this week. So hopefully he's back next week, but we're excited to have a couple guests on, to co-host this week. So let's jump right into it. First, just want to cover some Lions football. I mean, the boys are 4-1. They're playing some great ball. Honestly, from at least my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen them play better and have more expectations going into leg 2 of the season. Mudge, I know you're a fan. Hey, any thoughts on the Lions?
Loving what I'm seeing so far. The boys, everybody's performing high, nice. Would like to see some more depth here and there. The third quarter, we kind of come out a little flat. We start strong, come out a little flat after halftime. But we've had some easy games lately, but looking forward to the rest of the schedule. It's where teams are made. We got a grueling schedule ahead. We got the Buccaneers this Sunday. Baker's playing good. They're busting out the creamsicle jerseys. It's going to be a tough one on the road. Following that up with another road game against Baltimore. Some tough matchups, but, we're going to see what this Lions team's made of. I've never been more excited in my lifetime as a fan. We talked about it a little bit earlier. We're chugging the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I've poured myself a couple glasses each Sunday. Might have to start making a whole pitcher soon.
Yeah, my teeth are turning as blue as this wall behind me from how much Kool-Aid I've been drinking. I mean, it's hard not to, but we're going to see, what this team really is made of. Like you mentioned, I mean, going into Tampa and then following that up and going into Baltimore. Like, if this team can get out of that somehow 2-0 and be 6-1 on the year, like, I don't even know what I'll say. The Kool-Aid will definitely be flowing and might start turning my sights to Las Vegas. So maybe way too early. I'm just excited, man. Can you blame me? So Chuck, big Vikings fan. I mean, not a big fan of the Lions, NFC North rival. Any thoughts on the Lions? I mean, how do they look from an outsider's perspective?
Yeah, they're a great team. They're great in all 3 facets. Offense is clicking. Defense has gotten a lot better. And then special teams, you got the best punter in the league. And Riley Patterson hasn't been too bad. So they're a scary team. Division's theirs, I think. It's weak this year, so.
Yeah, Packers don't look great. Vikings don't look great. Bears don't look great. I mean, it's the Lions division for the taking. So
everything's set up.
Yep, these next 2 weeks will be big, and we'll see how they can do. But leading into the next segment and what really matters to this podcast, a week 5 recap. There were some great games across the league this week. Mudge, we'll let you kick it off with the first one. It was your game. What happened there?
Yeah, truly disappointing performance by the Denver Dust Balls. As the GM/head coach, need to see more out of my boys. When Mark's Flying Circus comes into town, most years prior, you just kind of laugh it off. But this year they're flying high. It's scary when you see the circus come in. You got them marked on your schedule. It's an interdivision rival. This has playoff implications going forward. And truth be told, my team laid an egg. Dropping 3 straight after starting 2-0. Looking like absolute frauds, but we'll get into that in the power rankings. And Mark's team's looking good. Happy to see Mark on top. He's doing amazing. His team's looking real solid. It seems that it took about 9 years, but Mark's finally putting all the pieces together, and you love to see it. There's no guy you root for more besides yourself in the league than Mark. So love to see it. Can't complain. And turn into week 6 and looking ahead.
Yeah, I think that was extremely well said. Two things in particular. One, everyone wants to see Mark succeed, right? Like he's a true league favorite. And just to see his team, I mean, this is no joke of a team. Like his team looks strong. Yeah, Achane or however you say his last name went down, which could be a big loss for him. That guy's a bonus machine. But all in all, a really solid team. And like you said, the flying circus is flying high. And, it's really exciting to see, as someone competing for a playoff spot potentially in that division. Not what I necessarily love to see, but Mark succeeding is good for the league. So into our next game, this was Turn Your Head in Golf versus the newly found Chuck's Crumb Bumps. Chuck, you want to walk us through that one? And it wasn't your best performance. What happened there?
Yeah, not a good performance. No one scored touchdowns except Kirk. And then Jefferson got hurt in the third quarter, so that set me back. And that was pretty much it. Putting up 60, you're never going to win. Mm-hmm. I'm good for about 3 or 4 of those a year, I think. So we got one out of the way early, and another division game. So I'm 1-3 right now in division. So that's a tough start.
Yeah, you definitely want to win those division games, and I mean, yes, it sucks losing your weekly matchup. Like you never want to lose a fantasy football game, but for your team, I think, losing Jefferson is honestly a bigger loss in the long run than just this week.
Yeah, the team's not looking good. Not too happy. That's a big loss.
You got a matchup coming up next week. That's the thing. You lose, the sun rises the next day, and you move on to the next week hoping to bounce back. So into our next game was just an absolutely dominating performance from our number 1 seed, Lang's football team, with the 170 burger on yours truly. Man, it was a tough game because it really felt like this could be, a statement game and a momentum builder for the Do You Jobbers. Unfortunately, we did our job, but it just wasn't good enough. So, great win. And Lang really did remind me that he truly is the one who knocks.
Yeah, truly a, tough performance. You hate to drop the second most in the league. Your team's looking like it's clicking on all cylinders right now. And we'll get into that in the power rankings as well. But Lang's football team just dominated from start to finish. And, everything's pointed. It's his year. This is the year that Ashton's finally putting it all together. I see no flaws in his team, and I see no reason why he doesn't just walk into the championship and finally take home the trophy this year.
Yeah, I think he wins it by 40.
Let's just hope his team's not peaking too early. That's just what we gotta hope. And I mean, I will say he's in rare air. He's one of very few teams, only 5.9 million teams that are undefeated
on
in
ESPN
fantasy football. So very rare air. Only a handful of teams that are there with him at 5-0. But into our next game, we had the Fort Wayne Mad Ants against Clark Bar's football team. A lot of talk of Fort Wayne Mad Ants revolution. I mean, there's things getting tossed around all over the place. He blocked the noise out and he went out there and put on a hell of a performance.
Yeah, it was a great performance by his team. Some strong performers. Started Russ, and Russ cooked a little bit for him, but it was Etienne and 3 touchdown performance from Kittle that really sealed the deal for him. So, even with one of his best backs, Kenneth Walker, on the bench, he performed this week. And hate to see Clark Bar, finally take a loss. But that's going to happen when you come up against a team that's, performing like the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. He's taking that noise, made bulletin board material, and his team's using it. So not going to give him any more this podcast.
He doesn't need any more this week. I'm playing him, so not going to do that.
Chuck, any predictions going into next week? You were saying before we started recording that you were going to kick his ass, right? Is what you were saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Big trash talker I am was saying that, yeah.
Love it. Well, last but not least, we had the Golden Tate Warriors scored 106 on the week against the Southside Silly Sliders. I mean, a pretty solid performance from Golden Tate. 106 is, definitely respectable. Anytime you score over 100 points in our league, you're expecting at least a chance at winning. But with that said, anytime you play a team that's putting up less than 70, your chances exponentially increase. And unfortunately for the Silly Sliders, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you just get to see
tough year for Justin.
Like this. It's somebody in the league that you respect more than anybody. He's got 3 of them. He's got 3 rings. You can't ever, take it for granted. And his team's just not clicking. Meanwhile, Josh, another, like Chuck, another person who, James Conner went down this week. Have to see kind of how his team groups around that and moves forward. But definitely, great win for Josh and his team in that tough gold division.
For sure. Well, that brings us into our next segment, which is going to be the power rankings. So power rankings are going to be done a little bit differently now. It's going to be a different committee that's putting these together, as the previous committee did decide to resign those rights to the power rankings. So don't expect much to change as far as where teams land and the non-bias factor that goes into it, but did just want to put that on everyone's radar that the previous committee did resign. There has been a new committee put in place, and with that said, let's kick it off. Chuck, you want to lead us off here and talk about the top three?
Yeah, it's no surprise. Ashen, dominant football team. It's his year, obviously. He's staying at number one. Hunter had a tough loss, but he'll stay at 2. His team is still one of the best in the league. And then Mark, another good win for him. He's going to stay right at 3. So the top 3 stay the same this week.
Yeah, I didn't see anyone moving really, regardless of performance. Looking back on the last few weeks, you had a Clark Bars football team really starting to gain some momentum and making a push for that number 1 spot. And I think if he would have had another stellar performance and Ashen kind of just had another average performance, I think maybe this was the week that we would have, seen that jump. But Ashen really put out a statement game, dropped 170, second highest performance in fantasy football in the league this year. So cemented that number 1 spot. Hunter drops to 4-1, but definitely still at that 2 spot. And Mark's looking pretty dang good at that number 3.
Yeah, I can't complain about any of those 3 teams. I think those are the most solid teams going forward. It's going to be tough to kind of crack into that top 3, but, loving what I'm seeing out of those 3 guys. So congrats to them so far.
For sure. Well, Mudge, keep it rolling there. Give us our 4 and 5 and your thoughts on these 2 teams.
Yeah, in the 4 spot, moving up, they're the biggest move of the week. They dropped 5 last week, I believe, and they're up 5 this week. This is the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, like we just talked about. No, they beat number 2. That's a huge win for that team. They're firing on all cylinders. Really taking everything that's being said to heart, blocking out the noise this week, and just got a win against the number 2 team. So when you beat a team like that, you're going to move up. And that's, we're giving Mauser his respect in the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. So, they're up to 4 this week. And number 5, also a big mover. The second biggest mover of the week, it's Turn Your Head and Golf. I'm 3 spots to number 5. Loving what I'm seeing on Trent's team. Jamar Chase had a huge game. You love to see it when he has 2 Bengals wide receivers. It's kind of been a little shaky at the start of the year, but even through that, his team's gotten 3 wins. So impressive nonetheless for the newcomer in the league. Got a tough matchup against him this week. But, definitely respecting his team. And then the 6th spot, staying where they are is the Golden Taint Warriors. Again, he put on a good performance. Justin had 68, still not going to take anything away from the Golden Taint Warriors, back-to-back wins after starting 0-3. So looking forward to kind of seeing what his team puts together going forward. Josh is never somebody you can count out in this league. So I think his team's putting together.
I think the 5 and the 6th spot were interesting here because I think you could have an argument that these 2 would flip. Obviously, Trent's team does have an added win at 3-2. The Golden State Warriors are at 2-3. So, I see what the committee was thinking here, especially with Jamar Chase finally putting together a Jamar Chase game. I think that only is going to build positive momentum for Trent's team. But talking about momentum, I mean, Golden Taint on the 2-game win streak after starting 0-3. Coming to 2-3, I mean, he's on a roll, and I mean, if he keeps it rolling, then the rest of the league might be in trouble.
Yeah, it's not surprising. He always finds himself right in the mix of the playoffs. So not shocked that he is coming back off that 0-3 start.
For sure. So on to the 7, 8, and 9. You guys can all probably guess who the 10 is. Unfortunately, we'll just give it away. It's the Southside Silly Sliders. Another, poor performance from them, and they're going to stay at that 10 spot. let's not count them out yet. There's still a lot of season left to be played, but for now, Justin's squad is going to stay there at the 10. But the 7, 8, 9 was interesting, and the 7, 8, 9 are the three faces you're looking at on your screen right now. The committee did actually end up putting the Ogama Do You Jobbers at 1 and 4 in the 7 spot. I think with this team, they're so interesting because they can't really find a win, but they're putting up, great performance after great performance. Third highest scoring team in the league, put up the third highest single game score in the league all year behind Hunter's 175, Ashton's 170 at 152. And they still couldn't find a win. So I see the committee's thinking and keeping them even there at the 7, even at 1 and 4. I mean, your guys' thoughts, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I could touch on this a little bit. Not going to spoil the rest of the rankings, but, I lost to you in a heartbreaking fashion. Your team's year after year, it seems like you have the most points against, but also putting up a solid points for. So your team, it's looking solid. It clicked. I mean, you're beating everybody this week besides Ashton. 170 is a crazy amount to put up, in 150 even in most weeks. I think that's whooping everybody's ass. So hate to see it. It's just I'm not the one that makes the schedule. In fact, you are, so you can blame yourself. But giving respect to the Do You Jobless or Do You Jobbers. Still not gonna get that down, but one day.
Yeah, well, that brings us into number 8 and number 9. Chuck, you want to run us through those?
Yeah, Mudge falls down 4 to 8, and then I fall down 4 to 9. We're both 2 and 3. We have the same amount of wins, same amount of losses. I think his team's in a better spot than me. Me losing Jefferson, I think that's a kill shot for my team. So I think it makes sense for both of you to be ahead of me.
Yeah, I think both Chuck and I, maybe this is just a losers podcast. Also, just looking at the recap, all three of us lost this week. 7, 8, 9. Nobody wants to really hear from us, but we're going to give the people a great performance nonetheless. And yeah, Chuck and I are on a kind of a skid. Me at 3 games, him at 2. I'm just free falling in this rankings. The Denver Dust Balls are. So hopefully we can stop the skid. And hopefully both of us can turn it around.
For sure. Well, a lot of season left, boys. Yes, you're right. This is a losers podcast. Maybe next week it won't be. It's unfortunate, but we live to fight another day. So on to our next segment here. Looking ahead to next week's matchups, what we have to expect. We're going to start it off with, honestly, a big game for both teams here with the Denver Dust Balls at 2 and 3, looking to get up to 500 on the season, and then turn your head at 3 and 2 after moving up into the top 5 in the power rankings. Mudge, your squad against Trent's. What are your predictions for this game?
Yeah, I'm not going to give anybody any bulletin board material. This is a must win. It's plain as day. I've talked to the team, put them in the locker room. You can't lose 3 straight. Make it 4 straight, dropping this one, and hope to be in playoff contention. The Maroons tough this year. It always is. We're gonna battle each other. So, gotta win this one, and feeling pretty confident, feeling good. Finally getting Eckler back. Not gonna make any excuses. Finally getting my first round pick in. Feeling pretty good though. We'll see what Trent's team's made of. My quarterback's throwing to 2 of his wide receivers, so. Hopefully Burrow looks a different direction, maybe Trent and Irwin, or, put another white guy on the team. So hopefully we're looking another direction, but, tough matchup, and Trent, in the 5 spot, he's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. Well, for your sake, Mudge, I hope it doesn't end up like your quarterback throwing to his receivers like mine did with my quarterback throwing to Ashton's receivers. 50 from DJ Moore was tough to come back from, especially on a Thursday night, giving me 3 days to just sit there and think about it and look at the score and look at that 50. So for your sake, I hope that's not how it goes. But on to our next game. We have the 0-5 Southside Silly Sliders against Mark's Flying High Circus. The prediction for this one is plain and simple. You got a top 3 team in the power rankings against number 10. I mean, on paper, right, Mark has to win this game. But the beauty of fantasy football is anything can happen.
It is. That's a great part about fantasy football. And Justin's got to get a win. It's kind of win now. So I could see Justin getting the win this week.
Yeah, and I mean,
could too. It's going to be a lot closer than I think people are predicting. Mark predicted 100, Justin round up to 99. Justin has a solid squad, and Breece Hall put a great performance last week. If the rest of the team could click a little bit, I'm interested to see what he could do. And you got to think this is a good, also a must win for Mark to kind of solidify himself, keep pace with Ashton in the division to kind of keep up there as Ashton's reeling off wins. So, Mark also it's a big game for Mark as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how much Ravens football or how much Red Zone you guys watch, but Lamar Jackson was like a good receiver away from at least 2, if not 3 more touchdowns last week. He had a guy drop one right in the end zone that was right in his hands. And then he had, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Nelson Aguilar down the sideline. And Lamar just put one right in his breadbasket, which probably would have been a bonus play for Justin. Not saying it would have won him the game, but it would have given him some positive momentum. So don't count out Lamar. He looks actually really good throwing the ball. Yep. He just needs his receivers to kind of help him out a little bit. So don't count Justin out. I could see this game going either way. So next up, we got the Mad Ants against Chuck's Crumb Bums. Mad Ants with a lot of momentum. Chuck's Crumb Bums kind of heading the opposite direction. Chuck, I mean, a big week coming up for you. This would be a tough one to lose, but a huge one to win. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, again, it's another must win. We got a lot of division matchups this week, it looks like. So must win for this one as well. If I lose this, it puts me at 1-4 in division, which is a tough way to start the season. So if I can win this one, it puts me right back in the swing of the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. It would be a huge one. I mean, at 2-3, you're still right in the mix. And 2-4 and 3-3 is a massive, massive difference. And it would be a huge win for you this week. So on to our next game, an out of division matchup actually between your current host and your former host, the Ogama DU Jobbers, 1-4 against the opposite Clark Bars football team at 4-1. This is an interesting matchup because, I mean, Hunter's coming off a loss, right? His first of the season. So it's time to see what his team is really made of. Does he become unfocused? Does his team slide? Do I get one on the board? Or does he, bounce back after a pretty mediocre performance and, do what his team's capable of doing?
Yeah, I think you're playing him on a tough week, playing him on a loss. That it's not the time you want to see the Clark Bars football team.
Well, I am 5 for 5 this week on playing a team that I don't want to see on that given week. So, let's just make it 6 out of 6, right? Like, give me your best performance. My team is built for this. We're facing a lot of adversity as it is. Why not give us a little bit more?
Why not?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, but I think, your team's primed to, sneak one from Hunter. Dropping Hunter to 4-2 would be huge. And, for you moving to 2-4 with potentially the Dust Balls, dropping to 2-4 at the end of this week, I think it's going to be a good one. And, not often your team is clicking this week. It clicked the week before. I think he dropped 120 against me, another 150. Those are big boy points. You're going to win a lot of games in this league, putting those numbers up. So, you got to see one fall soon.
A win this week and a loss by you this week, Mudge, puts me right into the 3 seed in the Maroon division. I mean, with us splitting our head-to-heads and me having a little slight advantage in the points for, I mean, it would put me right back in the mix. So I hate to call this a must win for me, but man, at 1-4, it really feels like it is. So definitely need to get into the win column here. And last but not least, we do have the 5-0 Langs football team, one of 5.9 million against the Golden Tank Warriors that have a ton of momentum there at 2-3. I'd like to hear predictions from both of you here. I mean, these are 2 really solid squads, and I'm thinking, could be a huge matchup for both teams.
Yeah, this is a tough one to predict. Last week, Ashton had a great performance by DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. I don't know if they're going to keep that up, if Justin Fields can keep the ball rolling against Chuck's Vikings. But I think what's really scary and just kind of looking, you got Josh Allen against the Giants, who are abysmal. But more importantly, you got Tyreek Hill against Carolina, who you saw what the Lions just did to him, absolutely torched them. So those are some scary players facing some not great teams, which could help in Ashton's favor. But you got Josh's team, who, again, they're clicking. They're looking good. We'll see if everybody could put up a good performance. He got the win last week, even with Devonta Smith putting up a big old goose egg. I think he had 0.6 points, which isn't going to help you by one of your star receivers. So you got to think more of his players put it together this week. Hope, I got to say, and guys, you could step in if I'm overstepping, but I think this is going to be the game of the week. I'm expecting big things. This is a huge game for the Golden Tate Warriors in that division, to win 3 straight. Ashton's team's looking to keep cruising. I think this is going to be my game of the week, and I'm excited to see, hoping to see, it is Ashton's year, so it doesn't really matter what I say, but, hoping to see the Golden Tate Warriors, pulling off.
Yeah, agreed. Looking at the schedule, this is, I feel like, easily the game of the week. 2 teams on win streaks, 2 great teams, so it should be a fun one. High scoring.
Agreed. Yeah, should be a banger. And if Tank can get to 3-3 in that gold division, I think that he starts to become a real threat. So Lang's football team, this just feels like one that he could let slip. 5-0 is great. 5-1 is, whatever. He's still in first place. So it just feels like, Golden Tate might have a little bit more motivation coming into this one. But that does it for these matchups coming this week. A lot of great games on the schedule, and some certain teams need some big performances. So that'll do it for this week. Next week, it's going to be a lot of the same. I do believe we will have Hunter back, but definitely going to recap the previous week of games. We're going to talk a little bit of Lions football. Hopefully they can get it done in Tampa against the creamed out Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Might have a guest back on the pod next week. Unsure if we're going to for sure. And then, definitely going to talk some of the biggest surprises and biggest disappointments from the week before. So boys, thank you so much for hopping on here and filling in. Anything you want to say to the league or to the fans watching all around the world before we hop off here?
Just thanks to all the fans. It means a lot to support this podcast, and go Blue.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Happy to be a part of this league. We're in our 10th year. It's crazy to think. I was telling some other friends that this league matters the most to me. And I told them how long we've been a part of it, and they couldn't believe it, that we've kept the same group of guys together for so long. Happy to step in for Hunter's role. His void is not, we could never fill it, but I know he's enjoying that sunshine down there. Hopefully, drinking a couple big Kona big waves for us, and enjoying his time, much deserved after a tough loss this week. He deserves it. So, just excited to be a part of it and looking forward to the next episode.
For sure. Well, for anyone still in here watching, thank you if you made it this far. We have some big supporters of the pod. We have some that, aren't the biggest fans. So for those that did made it, we really appreciate it. Thank you. And, thank you guys again for joining. Until next week. Peace.
See ya.
Thank you.